Okay. Rewind. Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Hero Within. And today, once again, I find myself in the beautiful city of Setubal, Portugal. And today, I'm going to talk to you about happiness with Andy Tulett. Andy, welcome to the show. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for being here. So my first question to you is, who are you and who do you want to become?
My name's Andy Tulett. I promote myself as Public Happiness Andy, and my mission is to make the world a happier place, to try and make a bit more kindness and well-being in the world around me.
Okay, that sounds like a very big mission.
It's not the smallest, no. There's a lot of scope for lots of creative paths in there.
Okay, so maybe before we dig in, maybe we can talk a little bit about happiness, because happiness is this word, and of course happiness is something else for everybody. So what is your definition of happiness?
Sure. I define happiness as well-being and creating a good life for yourself. So happiness itself is a very difficult term, because short-term happiness, if you gave me your phone and said, hey, this is for you, this is a gift, because I don't really want it, I would be happy, but it's not real happiness. So to me, happiness is something long-term. It's having a life that you can be proud of and a feeling of well-being, even when times are bad. So you can be going through bad times, but you feel good about your life.
Okay, so the bad
and
times,
yourself.
the bad experiences are like the obstacles you have to deal with, but your life is the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So something terrible can happen that you've got no control over, but if you are a happy person, if you have a good amount of well-being, you have the resilience to deal with that without it affecting you as badly as it might do other people. You've taught yourself some tools. That's the other thing about happiness, is it is teachable. You can teach yourself tools to manage those dips better and to really savor and enjoy the flavor of those highs.
Okay, can you share with us one of those tools, please? Because people be like, okay, I have some hardships in my life. We all do, right? We have all these things in our lives going on. What would be like one tool, maybe a small tool that people can use right now, today, and implement in their life, and that will make their life maybe just a little bit less of this, this difficult journey?
Well, I quite enjoy stoicism for when times are bad, and that's kind of like, how do you capture stoicism in a little box like that?
I think we're talking about Marcus Aurelius now.
Yeah, that type of stuff. I mean, it's a little bit dry. I wouldn't want to make it a lifestyle as such, but it's essentially kind of like stepping yourself back from what's happening and also living in the moment. So one example is, I think this was from Marcus Aurelius himself, actually. He was talking about a prisoner who was happy. He was locked up in a small cell. I don't know if this is from Marcus Aurelius or someone else, but he was locked up in a small cell, but he was happy because he was just focusing on the day-to-day rather than the bigger picture. He was taking every moment as it came. One of the most famous Stoics was a slave, and he wrote a book about how to forget about a slave in the Roman times. And he wrote about how to forget about how to focus on just the day-to-day things around you. So you're going through a bad time, but that doesn't mean you can't stop and see the smile on that puppy over there who's playing, and be like, okay, I feel good about that. It's about really focusing on the good little things around you.
Okay.
Regardless of the situation that you're currently going through.
Okay. Yeah, sure. There's always good stuff in your life,
Absolutely, and it doesn't minimize the bad stuff, but it means you can take a little break from that and just enjoy that.
Yeah, sure. And we will talk about that a little bit later in the interview.
I don't think I've given the best. I doubt that the thesaurus is going to give you the same definition as that.
No, sure, but we'll see where this journey will take us.
Okay.
So. First, a little bit of a practical question. When did you move to Setubal, and most importantly, why did you move to Setubal?
I moved in February to Setubal. We moved here. Well, I moved here because I'd spent much of the last 10 years living in a van and travelling around the world. I was out there chasing my mission, trying to create a little bit more happiness in the world, because to me that's the purpose of life, is just to leave the world a little bit happier and a little bit kinder because I was here. And if I do that, if I achieve that, I feel like I've achieved something. It just needs to be a little bit, you know. So I was off chasing around the world, and I kind of assumed that I'd always just stumble across somewhere that I wanted to live. And when that wasn't really happening, because there was always something else to do, somewhere else to be, I thought that I would try and force it. Do you know what? Okay, maybe it doesn't matter where you are. You can make where you are the right place. You know, if you're a positive person, you can meet good people. You can make it work for you. So I tried to settle down in the Netherlands for a year. That wasn't really working for me. I would say that the most simple, the most brief way that I can put it across is that I felt like I would never be able to own my own bit of land here, my own space here. So I thought, okay, and also I wanted to be somewhere a bit sunnier, I wanted to be by the beach, so I drove down to Portugal. I said, okay, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to make this work.
Okay, Setubal. So you've been living here now for about 6 months. Did you already discover your favorite restaurant or bar in Setubal?
We actually haven't been going out that much because we've been conserving, on conservation mode. We're kind of saving up to plant our feet properly, myself and my wife. So I also, as part of my being a bit more stable, not bouncing around to the next adventure, okay, which I still want to do, but I want to have a base where my feet are planted and then bounce from there and then come back. The first thing I did was adopt a puppy, because that puppy needed stability, needed a secure life, and that kind of was like, okay, now I'm going to have to provide it for that puppy. So I kind of jumped in the deep end a bit there, like I know myself, I know that's the best way. And then I met my wife. We actually started in Porto, but it rains a bit too much there, so we then moved down to Setubal. So yeah, that's where we are now. We're in conservation mode, trying to set something up here.
Okay.
So we're not going out all that much, but I don't know where's our favourite restaurant, because I'm not really answering your question, am I? I think we like O Conteiro, because I'm vegetarian, she's pescatarian. We enjoy we enjoy O Conteiro.
Is that on Luisa Todi, or where is that?
That's on Luisa Todi, yeah.
I think I know. I think I know the place. Yeah. Any favorite bars? Yes, because you also like to party. I know. I saw some party pictures on Facebook. So, you have a favorite bar?
Favorite bar. Well, I think we like quite a few of them. We haven't really picked a favourite yet. The place where this is our place.
Okay.
We're still working on that.
They have some places over here that are really nice. Yeah. Okay. So, what has been your most beautiful and your worst experience in Setubal so far?
Oh, in Setubal. Most beautiful. I haven't had a whole lot of experience. A lot of things to choose from there. It's all been pretty much easy going. I guess I loved climbing up to the little fort that's just up there.
Fort São Felipe.
Yeah, looking out over and being like, okay, this is home now. It was a beautiful day. Going for a coffee up there. So maybe I'd say that's our favourite bar, because the views are beautiful.
Yeah.
A worst moment. I don't know if we had any yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all been pretty easy going so far.
Oh, holy shit, look at you. Lucky you. Yeah. So, did you already discover like this hidden gem in Setubal?
Hidden gem? Yes, but I don't know the name of it.
Okay. Well, maybe you can share a little bit about it, where it is, and why is it so beautiful to you? Why is it a hidden gem to you?
There's a very small little bar which has lovely drinks in it inside, and I think most of the local people know it as the bar that Johnny Depp wasn't allowed into.
I think I know the place.
Yeah.
I was there, Speakeasy Bar.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's called La Boheme, I think.
That's okay.
La Boheme. Yeah, Johnny Depp wasn't allowed to enter the bar because he was very intoxicated.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, that's why he couldn't get in.
I can't imagine him ever drinking too much.
No, he's such a sober guy. Yeah, doesn't do anything. Such a. I've been to that place once. It's the bad part is that they allow people to smoke inside.
Yeah, that's a bit of a downside about Portugal. I mean, I'm glad I don't have hair now, so I don't go home stinking of it so much. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. But it was very cool. Like every corner's got something cool. Very, very, very well done.
Yeah, it is. It's like a museum when you walk into it.
Yeah.
Cool stuff on the wall.
And great drinks. They take a lot of passion in their drinks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Absolutely. La Boheme, everybody, go check it out. So, I want to share a quote with you and have your response on it, okay? And I already mentioned it when we went through the treasure map. So it was a quote of Pablo Picasso, because he once said, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. So my question to you is, have you already found your gift? If so, what is it?
Well, for me, I felt like the point in life when I was in my 20s, when I was younger, was to chase new experiences. So this was before I started my project, which we're probably going to talk about a bit later. And I was just bouncing around, chasing off all over the world. I left school at 16. I tried a job which my parents were like, oh, what a great job. I was trained to be an aircraft technician for Lufthansa. But it just didn't fit me. I had too much enthusiasm to go out and see the world. So I just went off chasing adventures. And I was hitchhiking around the world. I was living in tents. I was couch surfing and just living this cool life, chasing one dream, chasing the next dream, chasing the next dream. And to me, at that point in life, I would say the meaning of life for me was to experience as much as I could. And then I reached a point where I was like, well, what is the point of all these experiences that I'm gathering if I'm not going to share them with other people? So I believe that's what I'm doing now, is I'm trying to share things with other people, trying to share things that I've learned. And to me, what I've learned is mostly around trying to connect people to build a happier world, a happier future, a kinder future.
Okay, so in all your travels, you were always looking for happy experiences?
No, not necessarily. I was just looking for experiences.
Okay, and some of them turned out well and other ones didn't? And
well, I'm a fairly positive person. I tend to think that if you're a positive person, most things turn out well, because people tend to treat you the way that you expect to be treated. I mean, I've met some people who are not particularly nice people, I'm sure, in other situations. I've been picked up by gang members in New Zealand, one who had, can I swear?
Sure.
Yeah. Fuck and off written on his eyelids, tattooed.
Wow.
I mean, on his eyelids. It must have hurt so much.
Shit.
And he was really sweet to me, very nice to me. Invited me back to their clubhouse, which I politely declined. I thought it was a step too much. Yeah. I've been picked up by gun smugglers in Bosnia. Yeah, no, was it Bosnia or Serbia? It was either Bosnia or Serbia. I was travelling between the two. They were lovely to me. They recognised that I wasn't going to get to where I was going to get to. They invited me back, cooked me a meal, drove me back to my hitchhiking spot in the morning. Lovely guys.
Oh, great.
I'm sure that they've done some not so lovely things as well. You know, if you're presenting yourself in a positive way, most people are positive to you. And that's not a hard and fast rule. I don't want people here thinking, oh, this bad thing happened to me because of this. No, I mean, you can be unlucky. Of course you can.
Sure.
You know. But it also affects the way that you look back on these things. I mean, I've had a guy try to rape me in Bulgaria in a hostel because there's no one else there.
Damn.
But I look back on that as it's a good story.
Well, he tried to rape you, so that's why it's a good story.
Yes.
If he did rape you, maybe the story would have been so great.
Absolutely. Yeah. If he had done it, it would have been a much worse story. But, you know, it didn't traumatise me because I look on it in a fairly positive way. It's just a great anecdote for people. And it made my travel a lot more interesting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Adventures.
And I've probably learned a few things as well.
Could you share one of the things that you've learned on your travels? Because the things that you've learned are also the things that you want to share with other people, you know, in some form or another. So what is one of the most valuable life lessons that you've learned in your 10 years of travel?
I tend to think that life is a bit like a story. Now, or you could, if you prefer books, if you prefer movies, it could be a movie. But life is like a story, you know. You don't go to the cinema or go to the library or go to the bookshop and say, I want the most bland, boring book possible. You don't want that, you know. You want the most interesting book. So in life, I try to think, okay, every time I come to a crossroads, I'm like, okay, which would make the most interesting decision? Not the easiest decision, maybe not even the best decision, but the most interesting decision. Because when I look back on my life, those are the bits that I remember, and it makes a cooler story to remember.
Yeah, definitely.
To me, that's creating well-being. It's, you know, I'm going to brush over some of the hiccups in life, but look back on the highlights. Because, you know, everyone has the power to choose whether they look back on the lows in life, like, oh, I did that once, oh, it was so terrible, which, you know, I mean, everyone has that from time to time. It pops out, but you laugh that off, and I tend to just focus on the most positive times in life when I'm looking back on it, and it makes my life story seem way cooler than it probably was.
Yeah. But I'm sure you experience, I mean, maybe you don't, but do you experience fear along the way on your journeys? I mean, I can imagine the guy trying to rape you in a hostel. That was not a happy moment, you know, and maybe you had these thoughts that, holy shit, what if this is actually going to happen? And what do you do with other situations when fear kicks in? Because, you know, what you are saying, I can absolutely relate to that. You know, life is a story. I am a storyteller. Life is definitely that story. And you are the storyteller of your own life. So you get to decide how that story is going to play out, basically. So what do you do when you feel fear coming up in certain moments?
That's a good question. I guess I mean, when it's a physical moment like that, like a threat of fear for my life, everyone responds differently. I feel like one of the things that gets most people into trouble in those situations is that their own reaction, because they're surprised by it. Like they haven't experienced that before. Something comes out of them, and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting to react like that." It's a, you know. So to me, I felt like I had to kind of like chase these moments. I got very much into mixed martial arts when it first started, and I found it very, well, not boring to be standing there with someone who's trying to knock your head off, you know. I kind of enjoyed that. It was like being alive. You haven't got time to not be present. And in those moments, I became more aware of my response to dangerous situations. For example, I grew up in a fairly rough area, and I've got a big scar on my thumb there. Yeah. And when I was 15, some kids tried to take my money, and I told them no, because I'm quite a stubborn, borderline stupid person at times. If someone asks you for your money with a knife, give them your money. Sure. Don't do what I did. But I was 15, I told them no, and there was a little bit more to the story. The guy... Do you want the full story?
Yeah, sure. Let me have it.
So I actually had money. I'd been working a summer job. So I had money. I had £70 in my bag, which was a lot for me. Sure. You know? Yeah. And so these two older lads came across to me, maybe 21, 22, and they were asking me what's in my bag, you know, in a threatening way, like, what's in your bag? And I said, oh, nothing's in my bag. And the guy's like, oh, show me what's in your bag. I want to see what's in your bag. I said, no, I'm not going to show you what's in my bag. There's nothing in there. He said, maybe there's a unicorn in your bag. I said, yeah, there's a unicorn in my bag. And he's like, well, now you're not going to show me the unicorn. Like, starting to be a bit threatening, like, okay, well, you've got a unicorn in your bag, you're not going to show me, so either you're lying to me or, yeah, it's just, you know, it's aggressive stuff, you know. So he said he was going to count to 3, and if I didn't open my bag for him, he was going to kick me. He counted to 3, I didn't open my bag, he kicked me, I got up and I pushed him. He staggered, hit his head on the handrail on the train. Did I mention this was a train? This was on a train. Actually, he seemed a bit dazed, which I guess was lucky for me, but his friend jumped at me with a knife, and I lost half my thumb. It's not so bad now, actually, but it was flat for about 6 months. They did a good job pulling it together. But But see, that situation wasn't what freaked. I guess I should tell you what happened afterwards. So the blood's squirting out, and the guy's like, "Do you think this is funny? Do you think this is funny?" And I say, "What? Do I look like I think this is funny?" And he's there waving his knife, and then the doors opened and they ran off, which I guess was lucky. Otherwise, I possibly wouldn't be sitting here today. But you know what freaked me out most about that situation was my own reaction. Because afterwards I couldn't get my head around the way I reacted, because I didn't react. I was just, I don't want to say I was calm, I just didn't react at all. I thought I should have been angry, I should have been afraid, I should have been, but I just, nothing. So going back to the mixed martial arts, I discovered that that's a personality that some people have, and it can be quite a good one. You don't react until afterwards, because maybe an hour afterwards the adrenaline started pumping and I'm feeling it and my heart's like this, but in the moment I didn't feel anything. So different people, you can train yourself to react in some ways, but different people have natural reactions as well, and it's a combination of the two of those. I think it's important that people understand what their own reaction is going to be, because when a situation like that happens, you don't want to be freaking out by yourself as well as the situation.
Yeah. So put yourself in situations where you can test yourself.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah. I don't think necessarily have to pick out the worst neighborhoods in Setubal and go to this area where a lot of colored people live and call them a certain name and then see what happens. I
would say that's a step too far. I definitely so have. I'm definitely a step on the side of stupidity in some situations, but I wouldn't go seeking trouble.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out, though. So I have another quote for you. Happiness comes from solving problems, not avoiding them. I'm sure you've heard that quote before. So my question to you is, what is one of the challenges you are facing right now, and how do you deal with that?
Well, during COVID, because COVID interrupted a lot of stuff, so my main mission was getting out and showing people on the streets how they can make where they live a happier place, how they can bring more kindness and more peace and more friendliness to where they live, because everyone wants that, and how to connect people. During COVID I couldn't do that, because obviously connecting people is not a great idea physically during a pandemic. So I kind of retreated from that, and I focused on building a new website, a new platform, because my biggest challenge with my project's always been that I've tried to make it about everybody else, but everyone always comes directly to me to ask how to do this, how to do that, because I'm the one who's been doing it. So I wanted to build a platform which took me out of the middle, so someone says how to do this, well, there's that, this is going to do that for you, to kind of automate the process, or to give people access to everything they need, so that it can take away me as the bottleneck for it to grow into a larger movement. Or to grow into a self-sustaining movement, I guess. So I would say my big challenge is I became quite insular during COVID. I guess people deal with being locked in different ways. I maybe wasn't the most proactive that I could have been, and that's how I dealt with it. I've kind of faced that in the past with some surgeries as well. That I'm like, well, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to do that. But I become a bit insular when I can't get out and do stuff and exercise and meet people. So I would say my big challenge is getting back out there now. This interview is a big step for me.
Oh yeah?
You know?
How so?
Well, not only in getting back out there, but also I've always tried to hide myself behind the projects and the people around me. I've never wanted to be like an influencer or anything like that. I don't particularly enjoy being in front of the camera. I had a 6-month crash course in it when a documentary maker wanted to film us, and I'm doing a lot better now in front of a camera than I was then. I'm not sure how good that footage is he got, especially at the beginning. But yeah, this for me is a challenge. This is like putting my face to what I've been doing, because a lot of the activities I've been doing, probably some of the people watching here, your podcast will know of the activities, but they won't have an idea that I was leading it, or I was one of the members of the team that was coordinating it.
What kind of activities have you been creating in Setubal? I mean,
In Setubal, we've not done much in Setubal yet because we're still kind of like, is it a good idea to connect people yet? And also I'm focused on launching our platform now. Once it launches, it should make it a lot easier to create these big viral events or to meet people nearby you and go out and find creative and fun ideas to make where you live a more connected and peaceful, friendly place.
Okay, so the platform is going to be global or local, or what's the...
Both.
Oh, both?
Yeah. In fact, it's split into two completely separate sides which kind of mirror each other. One is local and one is global. Mm-hmm. Local is you go onto there's a map where you can find people nearby and you can find suggestions of activities. You can send them people invites and say, hey, I want to do this. I want to do free hugs. I want to share eye contact with people on the streets. Little things which connect societies. Okay. And you can, so it's kind of like an event site and a meeting site.
Okay. But they're all focused on creating some form of happiness.
Yeah. Connecting people to create a happier, more connected society.
Okay, but the platform is not online yet? It's not operating yet, or?
Yes and no.
Oh,
it's there and it works, and we're maybe a few weeks away from launching it.
Oh, okay.
So it's there, but if you do join in, you might want to send me a personal message to ask, hey, how do I find my way around this? Because it's not quite intuitive yet.
Okay. Does the platform have a name yet?
Yeah, publichappinessmovement.com.
publichappinessmovement.com.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm definitely going to check that out. So that sounds good. I mean, we can always use more happiness, especially after all the COVID years that we've been going through.
Yeah, I need it as well. I need to get out and start meeting people and being social, because it's so important for your mental health. Even people who think it's not, like there's a lot of studies that show even if you're quite an insular person, you consider yourself introverted, having that social interaction at a manageable level is so important for your mental health.
No, definitely. Yeah. And then Setubal is such an easy place to meet new people and connect and make new friends and do stuff. And you have the great climate, of course. We have the ocean, like you said. We have Arabica.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's easier here to connect with people than back in Holland.
Yeah, I think so. I don't
know if you experience that as well. But
we want more parties. I know you're setting up a party soon. I started running a bar crawl just to try and get some energy and some life and put a little bit of fun into it. I'm best at putting myself in situations. If I'm scared of situations, I'm best at putting myself into that situation So if I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit like socially awkward, like I'm not too sure about going out and meeting people, I'm going to run a bar crawl.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Yeah, that's good.
Just put yourself in a situation where you can't avoid it.
Yeah, the bar crawl could be a good idea.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun to me. Yeah,
I actually had a lot of social anxiety when I was younger.
Really?
So to go from that to leading events where you've got like 1,000 people following you through the streets of London in their underwear, for example.
Did you ever try that? Did you do that?
Yeah, we do that.
Oh, you did that, yeah?
That's one where I helped run the London one, but that came from Improv Everywhere in the States.
Ah, cool. So you had 1,000 people walking through London in their underwear.
Yeah, we go on the train, take our underwear off. The point is to pretend like it's completely normal. And Improv Everywhere are more just about doing stuff without a purpose. But to me, I feel like there is a purpose behind that, because it's pushing people just to not take life so seriously. And I love that. To me, that's important. Don't take things so seriously,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, life is serious enough as it is, because we are guaranteed to die in it. You know, it's like this game that we're playing, and we are going to lose. That's a fact. We're going to lose. Maybe it's not losing, but we're going to die. So that's going to be a definite case. So what do you do
Yeah, you look at the world of politics, and every single dictator shares one core character feature that I can see. They can't laugh at themselves. They always take themselves too seriously. They implement laws to say no one else can make jokes about them. Like, I think if they laughed at themselves, they wouldn't be such dicks.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe you should send Putin a message over. Yeah, but basically life is a playground with an expiration date, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Just make friends and play. That's what we did when we were kids. I think it turned out pretty good for most of us, so why not keep on doing that?
Absolutely. I think adults... It's really important for adults to learn to play more, because we grew up in a society saying, hey, adults don't play, and it was wrong. There's tons of studies now which show that being more playful is great for your mental health. It keeps you younger, and it's great for your connections, building your life quality. So I love to get adults to be more playful. I mean, one of the most silly activities we do, and it's stupid, but I like it because it's so silly, is we just go out and we do eye bombing. We go out and we look for things which look like faces, and we stick either like drawn eyes on it or googly eyes. We might stick googly eyes on or paper drawn eyes on it. And people are like, why are you doing this? I was like, I just want to make people smile and laugh, like make the world a little bit more playful, like a playground.
Yeah.
Because I know someone's going to see that when they're waiting for the bus. They're going to laugh.
Sure, yeah. Put a smile on people's face.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's this quote that I'm reminded of by George Sebastian Shaw. We don't get old because we stop playing, but because we stop playing, we get old. Absolutely. Or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure you know that through your life you've met a few people who were like, you would consider them elderly, like 70, 80, 90, but they still had that like youthfulness in their eyes and that energy. And it's just that they're still playful.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. That's how you want to get old. Keep playing. Keep putting that smile on your face as many times a day as possible.
Absolutely.
And surround yourself with like-minded people who are in that playfulness as well. Hallelujah. So, I have another quote for you. It's actually one of my personal favorites. That which you most need can be found where you least want to look. So my question to you is, what was a fear that you conquered in the past, and what did it bring you?
Let's have a think. I think there's a couple of good ones. There's one, but I haven't told it for a while. I just have to remind myself. Yeah, okay, so I told you I was a little bit I had a lot of social anxiety when I was younger. Things like singing, dancing, worst nightmare. So I went to work in a summer camp in America. And I was doing lifeguard training first, so I arrived a little bit later than everyone, and the majority of staff were returning from the year before. So I'm arriving, I think it was 4 days late, and most of the staff had been there before. And we're sitting there eating, and I'm pretty happy. I'm kind of enjoying this new environment. And then everyone just stands up, starts singing, clapping and dancing, and I'm like, wow. This is literally my worst nightmare. I can't think of anything that I would prefer to not be around than this. This is the worst. You know? But maybe a room full of snakes and I'll be happier. And I just sat there like, wow, I don't even know the words to these songs, but if I did, I wouldn't be singing them. And I sat there looking really awkward until this lady came over to me, and I found out later she was the wellness director. So they had like a happiness wellness director for the camp, which was very cool. You know, someone who was focusing on mental health, which I think should be far more available to everyone. Somewhat to access to someone who focuses on mental health. She said, "Hey, you don't look so comfortable. What's wrong?" I said, I don't do this. She goes, well, what do you mean you don't do this? I like this, singing and dancing. I don't do this. And she said, well, when was the first time you realized you don't do this? I was like, what, never. I don't do this. And I can't remember the rest of that conversation, but I think that was about it. And the meal finished, and I went, oh no, that's right. The last part of the conversation, where she said to me, no, you don't understand. I want you to go away and really think about when was the first time you discovered you couldn't do this? Singing. And the meal finished, we went away. People were like, had a campfire and they were playing music and having fun, but I went to bed early. I was like, okay, this is not the place for me. I think I should be leaving this. You know, I've been challenging myself, pushing my buttons a bit. I've been off hitchhiking around the world, but this is a step too far. You know, these are all of my fears. And because I was laying there alone, I decided to explore what she said. Just why not? You know, curiosity. Like, when did I decide I couldn't sing? And when I really thought about it, I remembered some times when I was little, when I was singing. It's like, oh, okay, so I did sing when I was younger. When did I stop singing? Why did I stop singing? Because apparently I did at some point, and then I stopped. And at some point I remembered some vague memories, but not insignificant memories of, like, shut up, you're rubbish. You know, people telling me I was bad at singing. I'm sure they were right, But this is an important lesson for kids, is you never tell a kid they're bad at something because they believe you. Kids are gullible. Kids believe you. And that's fantastic if you're running an activity with kids and you're or doing a game with them and you want to tell them there's like space aliens coming, because they'll believe you. But if you tell a kid they're bad at something, they also believe you. And that was huge in my life, because I later came, a couple of years later, when I was studying more, I came to understand that was a failed learning experience. And after that, I started questioning, what other things was I bad at? And where did those come from? Like things that I was afraid of, things that I had always assumed I was bad at. And then I started challenging those. I started seeking out situations where I could challenge those. So I got up, and that same summer, I got up and I would practice trying to sing in the meals, not for me, for the kids, because in American summer camps that's what they do, they all sing. I'd be like, I'm feeling terrible now, I'm singing terrible, but I'm doing it for the kids. Then at the end of the summer they had a thing where you would go up in front of all of the people of the camp, which was about 4,000 people I think, and sing a song, and I signed up. I was terrible, we did Bee Gees. But I did it, and I'm proud that I did it. And then after that I tracked down dancing classes. I learned to do some dancing, even though I was stiff as anything. And I can relate those directly to what I do now in my project, because I've now run like global sing-alongs where people from cities go out and they get people on the trains and buses to sing together early in the morning.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think I saw some videos on that on social media.
Yeah.
That looks really amazing.
It came from a good buddy of mine, Peter Sharp from America. He did the world's largest sing-along.
Oh, wow.
And I run the one in London there. And how many cities did he get to join in? He must have got about 60 cities, I think, to join in.
Wow, worldwide, yeah?
Yeah, 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, wow. Singing on public transport.
Really?
We were singing Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. That's a fantastic song.
Really?
And you've got to be a little bit careful, because some people do have anxiety and mental health issues on the train. So let people know what we're going to do, and we're going to give them a little bit of space if they'd like to discreetly move to another carriage. That's fine. And once we started, it's no problem, because if people see that, they're just going to get on another carriage. Yeah. I've also led public dance parties and joined in public dance parties. I did that in Groningen in Netherlands.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. That was a tough one, actually, because I thought there were people supposed to join, but Dutch people are very specific about their times. So I did it at 6 o'clock and nobody was there, and I was told later it's because everyone was eating.
Yeah, dinner time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up pulling a big boombox through the streets, dancing on my own, asking people to, and I'm like, wow, this is still a challenge for me. I'm better at dancing, or at least I'm more comfortable at dancing, which also means better at. But now I'm pulling a huge speaker through the streets with a bubble gun, dancing on my own.
Oh shit.
But, and you know what? Nobody joined in for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, and I'm just feeling really silly. But then some first person joined in, a couple more people joined in, and it grew into a party.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's very impressive. I mean, it's from the same guy who was afraid to dance at that dinner the first time.
Yeah.
And then you're dancing all by yourself on the streets of a different city.
Utterly terrified of it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Now I'm not afraid of it, because putting yourself in the deep end, and once you get used to something, you're not afraid of it anymore.
That's true.
So that's why chasing your fears is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Actually, coming back to anxiety, that's something that's important for people who do suffer with social anxiety, because it's something that I came from. Is that your instant response is to run away from something, but there are the most recent science on it is that the best thing you can do is to run at what makes you afraid. Chasing it, because it's fight or flight. If you run at it, if you put yourself in there, you might that might be too much. It might take you time to get there, but every time you put yourself in that situation, you're desensitizing yourself to it. You're learning to deal with it. You're battling your mental health, and mental health is something that I think myself, and from what you were saying earlier, you're acutely aware of. It's something that I think men in particular need to start talking more about, because it's an important subject, and it's something that I think is kind of, it is becoming more talked about in society now, but it should be a lot more, you know. Things like adults don't play. It's not true, and it's not healthy. Things like, you know, I remember distinctly being a 15-year-old going around the supermarket, and I would like feel like everyone was watching me, and if I knocked something on the floor, it'd be like this, like, oh. And the funny thing was, it wasn't every day, it was only sometimes. But I remember that feeling of feeling like everyone's watching me, and I think at some point I was like, I had this realization, like, wow. I think I kind of made fun of myself. I was like, wow, how arrogant and egotistical are you? Like, how can you be that important that everyone's watching you? And I guess I kind of like teased myself out of it. I'm like, no, okay, it's still there, but I know it's ridiculous because people aren't watching me. Parties, I used to hate parties because I didn't know what to do. Didn't know how to dance, didn't know how... I felt like everyone else knew the rules and I didn't. And a big thing for me with partying was the realization that, you know, there's so much going on. People aren't actually watching you. They're all focused on what they're doing. There's too much stimulus. And if someone is watching you, that's because they kind of like you, you know. They want to hang out with you, and they're digging what you're doing. So for me, partying, I was like, I didn't get it. But that's it. You don't worry what people are thinking because they're not looking at you. There's too much else going on.
Yeah, that's. I think a lot of people are afraid to do certain things because they worry about what other people might think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, you know, and I think I talked about this in a previous podcast. I read this book once. It's called The Top 5 Regret of the Dying.
Yes, I've read that.
Oh, you read that?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest regrets is that people wish they had the courage to live a life that was more true to themselves instead of living up to the expectations of other people. So, and if we know that, so if we, you know, we see ourselves in a situation where we would like to do certain things, but we don't do them because we are afraid what other people might think, that is one of those moments. Because if you're not going to do it, eventually you're going to regret it.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's also about, you know, the ultimate destination of fear is regret. If you just give in to that fear, if you listen to it and you don't do certain things about it, then eventually you will come to this point of regret. And you know, sometimes in life you can still do something about it. You know, if you don't do something now and tomorrow you realize, shit, I should have done that, and maybe you can go back and fix it in one way or the other. But eventually you're going to run out of days on earth. So you have this whole pile of regrets in front of you, and then it's too late to do something about it. And then you have to maybe check out this place filled with regret. Now that's a very, very tragic story to me.
It is. I think it's a story that most people, to some extent, end up with because of the society we live in that doesn't encourage that. I heard it captioned very succinctly. Like, it's like, you're free to do whatever you want. It doesn't matter what people think about you, as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because I don't know if you had this in the Netherlands, but I grew up with like, guys don't do this, guys don't do like the social rules were very, I mean, some of them were ridiculous. There was like even rules like how long you had to make eye contact with someone who's walking the other way on the street, because any more is aggressive and any less is inviting trouble. And like, these things are ridiculous. Like, rules aren't important. Do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting other people.
Men don't show their emotions.
Absolutely.
Real men don't cry.
It took me I didn't cry, I think, from the age of 12 till 19, I think I was. And when I did, it was a very cerebral, scientific process in myself. I was like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I had to force myself, and I got a couple of tears out, and I'm like, yes. You know, it still doesn't feel that natural for me, but I know that I can do it if I need to, if I want to, and I know that it's okay.
You should have become an actor. I mean, if you can cry on command, holy shit, you know.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, maybe it was. It was like there was a moment when it was quite emotional, and I was with people, and we were being led in an activity to forgive people. And I decided that I wanted to forgive someone who had hurt me in the past. And I felt emotion welling up. I was like, I want to do this. Can I do this? notepad out now. It was not easy for me, but I want to do this, and I did, and it felt good. And I think it felt more good because it was like breaking down this wall of something that I was told I wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah, I think forgiveness, and especially forgiving yourself, that's very powerful. It's not always easy, not even forgiving other people, because, you know, I'm sure we've all experienced that other people hurt us in a really bad way, you know. It hurt a lot, big pain, and we tend not to forgive that other person because of the pain they inflicted on us. And that can be physical and emotional, doesn't really matter, but, you know, if you can let go of that negative energy, that heavy energy that you carry with you, it's like this overloaded backpack that you carry around with you everywhere you go. So that is holding you back from the life that you truly want to live. So if you can find it in yourself to let go of that baggage, I mean, that is freedom.
It is, because it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's heavy.
It is heavy.
If we're talking about mental health, I want to share, I think I've already shared like one or two of the things that have affected me most in my life, but there was a third thing which I would say was the biggest thing in improving my mental health. Wow. And that is how you talk to yourself inside your own head. Because I had this friend of mine, this is one of these slightly older people, she was in her 70s or 80s, but she was just so alive, she was playful, had light in her eyes, and she just asked me, like, how do you talk to yourself in your head? After making a bad joke, I understood she was serious, and she said, like, are you kind to yourself? I'm like, no, is anyone kind to themselves? Like, I say mean things to myself, you know, I'm like very critical. And she just said, would you talk to anybody else the way you talk to yourself in your head? I mean, the idea of talking to someone else the way that I used to talk to myself in my head was horrifying, you know. I'm a fairly polite person. I grew up in a society where people were mostly polite, and I'm like, wow, I could never talk to someone like that. And she said, well, you're a person, why do you talk to people like that? Why do you talk to yourself like that if you wouldn't talk to other people? And that was just like taking a sledgehammer to my mind, like, bam! Because I had no idea. I had no idea that you could change that. Or that you should change that. I thought it was normal. So from that point, I mean, it wasn't immediate, but every time I caught myself being mean to myself, I would just tell myself off like I was another person. Be like, hey, that's not cool, don't say that, you know. Don't talk to people like that. Like if I heard someone saying that to someone else next to me, I'd be like, that's not cool, don't talk to someone like that. No, that's out of order. And I would say that to myself in my head. And over the next 6 months or a year, my head just became a softer place. You know, I mean, imagining how I used to live and just going around like constantly kicking myself, like inside your head is just constant kick. It's horrible. And having like a soft place that I can retreat into now, where there's not like this critical voice being mean to me all the time, is so peaceful, so calming, so much nicer. So I think that's something that really should be shared more. I personally think that all children should get psychology, mental health, positive mental health support. I think it's like part of their schooling. Could you imagine if we have a society of mentally healthy people growing up with all these lessons that we've had to teach ourselves? If they were taught that in school, it would be so great for society. And I mean, I know that politicians are always like money. It would be so great for the economies as well, because you would have so much less crime, so much more people who are talented, good at learning stuff, you know, good at chasing their dreams. I mean, it would be a much more healthy economy, as well as a much more healthy society that people actually want to live in, you know?
Yeah, of course, I'm not aware of the school system over here, the education, how they do it. I can only guess, but, you know, if I look at it, how it's done in Holland, then it's all focused on external and not on the internal world, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much to learn and so much to grow, and that's unbelievable. The whole world will transform. It would
be. I just like, it's just this intense image of a generation growing up with positive mental health being a big part of their learning. It would be transformative to humanity. It
would be interesting to find out how things are going over here in Portugal, because, you know, we were talking about when we start to live here, what is it that we want to give back?
From what I understand, because I have looked into it a bit, I do have the hope of raising a family here at some point. From what I understand, it's a bit of yes and no. Like people here are, would you say, society is very like, no, accepting is not the right word. Society is very safe. Young people seem like they have a wonderful life here. Like they can just hang out in the parks. I mean, I remember walking through the park and seeing teenagers hanging out like late at night and thinking, yeah, there would probably be a problem starting now if this was in England, but not here. No, it's just people here are pretty happy and pretty kind and pretty satisfied with life. But on the other hand, I also know that Portugal is not the highest on like mental health scores, and I know the schooling is considered to be quite old-fashioned in that way. Well, it's the same as I think schooling in England was very, very much focused on subjects, nothing about, you know, teaching people to be a good person, just teaching them subjects which are loosely related to some industries they might go into in the future.
I think it's very occupational oriented. So, you know, they educate you to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever, you know, get a high paying job. But then you have all these people who educated themselves in that field. So there's not going to be enough jobs. So you have, you know, overqualified people, you know, flipping burgers, driving taxis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they don't even know what it is that they're looking for in their lives anymore.
I'm sorry.
So that's okay. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see if there's, and actually I talked to somebody about that in Portugal, but that's a whole different story. I won't get into it right now. But there is hope. There is.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's demand for that, I
guess. But I'm curious, and I think what attracted me most to living here is that people seem happy, but they seem like they're quite content with what they have. But I'm also aware that's not strictly true. It's more about how it's presented.
Yeah, I also heard that appearances are very important over here. So how people present themselves to the outside world doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they are feeling or living.
Yeah, and I think they're also desperately in need of some dance parties, some public dance parties, some street parties, some getting out of their shell and understanding, hey, it's okay, you don't have to care what other people think. I think that's something that's quite important here, because people are quite reserved. As you say, quite concerned about what other people think about them.
Yeah, I think so too, So I have an entire list of questions here, 46 to be exact.
Oof, how many did we do?
No, well, I think we have time for one. So you just pick a number between 1 and 46.
Oh, we haven't started.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're almost finishing up, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's great. You just pick a number between 1 and 46, and that's going to be your question.
All right. I'm pleased we're not going to do all 46. My bladder thanks you.
Okay. So.
Let's do 11.
11. Number 11. Okay. What is the best advice you ever got?
Oh, I may have already covered that, but maybe I'll try and think of another one for answering that question. I think the best advice I ever got was that counsellor, the well-being officer in the summer camp in America, who told me, who asked me to think about when I first decided that I couldn't do something. But if I need another example, let's do question 12. I feel like I've already answered that one.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I think this one's even more challenging.
Okay.
Finish this sentence. You would really know me well if you knew...
I think I would say how much I struggle. I'm not sure how much I want to expand on that, but I think particularly now, going through COVID, not even before then, I've made myself a little bit of a martyr for my cause. Pushing to try and make a change at the expense of my own life, which I've tried to pull back a bit now. I've got the dog. I'm not living in a van anymore, which I did for 10 years. I'm eating for more than €1 or €2 a day, which is nice. But I'm still struggling a bit with, I mean, everyone's struggling with some things. My personal thing is ADHD. I really struggle with starting things every day. And it's like, okay, sometimes I start and I do fantastic work, but it's so tiring having the same battle every day to begin. It's like auto-executive issues. It's actually sitting down and being like, I'm going to start now. I think that's my biggest struggle, but in the past my biggest struggle has been being so focused on my cause at the expense of myself. So people see me at these events, they're like, wow, this guy has a great life, you know, he's leading pillow fights, he's leading dance parties, he's got all these cool people around him having fun. I'm like, yeah, but you don't see the 95% of my life where I'm sitting alone in my van or sitting alone in a bar on a Friday, Saturday night when everyone else is having fun and I'm there on my computer organising. Planning, trying to make a change. I think I was maybe not the. Maybe I could have done that. I could have done that in a more healthy way. That's been part of my journey. I could, and do you know what else? It would have been more effective because people want to be around you when you're happy. They want to be part of what you're doing if it's fun. But when people got close to me, they'd see that I was suffering to make this change, to try and make this change in the world. Because I always thought that if I could try and get people to be a little bit more connected, society to be a little bit more connected. You know, connected communities are protected from a lot of stuff that we've seen in the world in the last 5 years, you know. Things like waves of terrorism, politicians trying to divide societies, like these are your people, these are not your people, these people are the enemy, populists, and all of this stuff to try and grow their own power or to push their own cause, and it's all based on dividing people. If you connect communities, if communities are connected, they're protected from this stuff. And I think I maybe took too much of that on my shoulders and carried too much of that around myself, because it's like, okay, I want to connect people, I want to connect societies. I see the world going in slightly negative ways, and I want to pull them back towards it. So connected communities are powerful, and with my project I try and make sure that connection is focused on positivity and inclusivity, because hey, you can't be angry at the immigrants down the street if one of them has just been to the old people's home and read some poems to your grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, it takes that away, and that's human connection, that's society connection, that's powerful. So I'm trying to find a more healthy way of doing this, but I definitely have struggled in my mission trying to create trying to make a slight difference to make this world a kinder, friendlier, happier place, because I was here. And I guess if I look back at it, I guess I kind of already have done that, just in one or two little actions. It's like, it's a little bit better. So I try to remind myself to look back on that and be grateful for the fact that I have done something, you know. I've had many people reach out, like with personal messages, sometimes like a year later, saying, hey, I met you in this station, I just found out who you were, and like I'd just come back from a funeral and it was the nicest thing you ever did, things like that. And it makes me believe that it is making a small difference to some people.
Yeah, sure. So we already reached the 1 hour journey. You have the last word. Is there anything that you would like to share? Any last words, final thoughts?
Oh yeah, one other side. So I told you before, if you remember, think back about the local side where people come together of our platform that we're building. We also have a global side where if you've got a particular skill, like storytelling, for example, or graphic design, you come there and say, I've got this skill, I'm interested in this subject, and you find projects that people from around the world are building together. Oh, wow. Which again are based on connecting communities and empowering local people to create change, because everything I do is all about grassroots and local, even if it happens to be on a global scale. So we're currently trying to launch a platform which connects communities and helps them to help people who are homeless nearby. Because I feel like there are more people who want to help than there are who are homeless in the majority of countries, the vast majority of countries around the world. But people don't really know what to do or how to connect in a healthy way. So we've been building a platform based around that. collecting the most effective ideas from around the world, like crowdsourcing them, having people discuss them and discuss how to implement them where they live, and then you can go and then be like, hey, I want to do this. I mean, we've had a guy who sectioned off a little corner of his backyard, put a fence in there, put a fence there, put a gate there, so it was like a little cubicle, put a lock with a padlock with a code on it, posted the code on our platform, and he put a shower in there. Right, that's just such a great idea. So we can connect with people who are homeless nearby. We get these posters out to shelters. Most people who are homeless do have access to the internet or smartphones, but if they don't, we can also arrange like smartphone collections, because I'm sure a lot of people watching here have got a drawer with a few of them in there.
Yeah,
like
all
old
the phones they don't use.
Yeah, so we're launching this platform, and we need a little push to get it out there, particularly marketing. I'm terrible at marketing. I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're trying to get like marketing, a few web developers, some graphic designers together, and we're going to push this out. And we're going to do this in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks' time. Yeah, and I would just love to see that out there, trying to help people, because we've been building this with, it's all been volunteer built. We've been building this for about 4 years now. It'll be so nice to see it helping people. Okay,
one more time, what's the address again?
I would say come to the main site, which is publichappinessmovement.com, because the homelessness platform is not the best place to communicate now.
Oh, okay.
But if you're curious about that, you can see it. There is something there. It's called brightertomorrowmap.com.
Okay. Great.
So publichappinessmovement.com, pop over there, send me a message, and I'll direct you to how you can join in.
Okay, great. Yeah, because more happiness is always good. Well, Andy, we've reached the end of our journey. We've reached our destination. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come here and speak about your projects, about your life, share your stories, your insights. And so thank you very much for being so open and vulnerable. Dear listener, thank you again for your time. Thank you for listening in. I hope you learned something as well. Please share it with as many people as you think should hear this as well. And see you again on the next episode. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you. All right. That's it.
I'm going to say nice things after I use the toilet.
Yeah, sure.